Would you want to practice SE with some random person here?
I wouldn't, wouldn't be opposed at all.
That's what the meetup is for.
It would be my very first interlocutization.
Yeah, we can do that. And you want to switch spots?
Okay. Is this guy interested, you think?
I don't know. We'll see. Stand by him.
Okay, great.
So you're here to talk about epistemology and overwhelming amounts of data.
We're here to talk about what you're here to talk about.
Okay.
Would you like to put on your headphones?
Sure, sir.
Okay. My name is Jacob, by the way.
Okay, nice to meet you, Jacob.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Michael.
Cool, Michael.
I am a student at USC, and I'm a data scientist.
Okay.
And I heard you guys talking previously about how data can be overwhelming in this new age where there's a billion different sources of data and media groups and just different groups of scientists nitpicking statistics where you just ask the question, like, where do I start?
Okay. So your background in data science is kind of like interpreting data?
Yeah, so what we do is we take large sets of data, like overwhelming amounts of tens of thousands of pieces collected, longitudinal studies or even day-to-day studies, and we break them down and we clean them and extract them, and then we make them where the public can understand them through many reports, and then bring that to the media.
Wow. And is there like a sector that you focus on, health or?
I mostly work in public health and epidemiology.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. And I can't. I noticed you guys were really talking about this stuff, and it was really interesting and whatnot.
Yeah.
And what do you really think about like all the 5 companies owning most of the media, and then them nitpicking the statistics of who knows who?
Yeah. I mean, that's quite the topic for discussion, and we could definitely go there today if you'd like to.
Yeah.
So my thoughts, you're asking what I think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, there are known unknowns and unknown unknowns, and the most frustrating is when there's somebody keeping those unknowns unknown to you. So I feel like that's probably happening. There would be no way of knowing otherwise because they're probably trying to keep it that way.
Completely.
What has your experience been, or what is your interpretation of that?
I mean, especially after like all of this falsehoods of like vaccinations, and if they're like not safe or whatnot, and there's a lot of like, of course, money involved because the corporations run this country. Unfortunately, as a business owner, I could say that.
Yeah. And
it's mostly all about special interests and marketing. And well, as political this country can be, there are many unknowns, or even conspiracy theories that are true, but like you can't say that in media. But like it's very difficult to point out specifically, and it's just America's known for that.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
So a little introduction that we like. I don't know what they introduced over there. So we call this street epistemology. My understanding is that this is a technique for having a one-on-one conversation respectfully about a person's beliefs that helps somebody organize their beliefs, maybe in a way that hasn't been organized before, and kind of getting to see your own reflection that way and see what you believe, and asking the question, do you have reliable methods for arriving at this claim?
Yeah.
So a lot of people sit down here and talk about God, karma, the evil eye. I've been hearing a lot about that lately, which is this idea that if somebody like envies you, it kind of curses you. So usually it's these more like metaphysical claims that street epistemology deals with best here. But we can definitely have a street epistemology discussion about, you mentioned like conspiracy theories that probably are true, but just because they're concealing information, you think?
Yeah. And even here in California, like, in terms of the political atmosphere, this is very metaphysical, that, many political groups work together. And, because they're both koi in a pond, really, where they're both giant interest groups that cannot exist like without each other, because there's only one or the other, really.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's this meeting up in San Francisco called the Grove, where groups of both the Republican Party and Democratic Party meet every single year to determine the next president and whatnot, and sacrifice people. And again, this is outlandish, but a certain famous media commentator actually revealed these people, and you could watch a whole documentary online on YouTube, on DuckDuckGo, if you've ever heard of that site. And it's really opening, and it connects really like metaphysical ideas that are we the ones being played, and is there like an actual truth, or is it all just a perspective of marketing?
Okay.
And it's asking a bunch of different perspectives to answer that, bigger question.
Yeah. So if you had to boil this topic into kind of like a claim, like a truth claim, something that you would sort of put on a flag and say, I believe X, Y, and Z, would you, you can have as much time as you need, but would you be able to boil that down, you think?
Yeah, clearly. Like, well, thanks for asking that, but I would say, like, I'd be able to boil it down, like, that there is no Democratic Party and there is no Republican Party. There's rather just marketing and perspectives of those two marketing campaigns that really is just two different businesses making a whole bunch of money off of just false perspectives that aren't necessarily true.
Yeah.
Or it's just all about, well, a lot of it has to do with money.
Okay.
And instead of like actual ideas. That's why I firmly believe that there is no actual Democratic or Republican Party. And it's an awfully confusing sort.
Yeah. So you're saying that instead of, like, the popular notion would be that there's these two ideological groups in America kind of forever pulling on a tug of war and compromising on things, whereas what you're claiming is that this is just the facade, this is like the theater of politics, and that there really is like a back room.
Completely.
You pull the curtain and there's these people with names and addresses that are meeting in San Francisco and deciding who gets to be the president.
Well, it's been confirmed since early 1900s when Taft was president, McKinley was also president, and they showed there Ronald Reagan. And yeah, it's a really odd perspective. And again, people think you're absolutely crazy for this, but a lot of it is, yes, marketing. And it's very special though in America. Like, we all have different, ideas these people run off of, but they're all backed by really similar ideas in the end that are just one spectrum of the idea rather than a wrong or a right. And what really ties into it is, are you familiar with the Federal Reserve and how they're pretty much a private company that controls our money supply, and we pretty much have the infinite money glitch? And either side or perspective or political ideology relies heavily on the Federal Reserve to print invisible money to help our invisible causes for invisible purposes, which is, well, often misleading and odd. But from this perspective specifically, but I may be looking too deep into it.
Yeah, I can tell that this is the kind of belief that is pretty broad and has a lot of applications and a lot of different things, like, elections, the Federal Reserve, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you had to point, and I keep on like trying to lasso you back in, I don't know if you can tell. So if you could point your finger at like maybe the one most damning piece of evidence that you've seen historically, or that we can kind of verify in visible ways. Anything come to mind in that way?
I would say, well, definitely inflation and interest rates over time. And again, it's very broad, but like the farther out, the bigger picture you have to look, the more intricate the details really get. And the larger the interest rates and the higher the inflation.
You got COVID on your brain.
Yeah, COVID, yeah, all these questions and, the Delta variant, yeah, it's just, yeah, would really like leaves that perspective of how the Federal Reserve and these, people, top 1% of people whoever's names they may be, could really control this country, same thing. Because we're all, the whole idea that I'm going to try to wrap us back into is that Americans and people in general are controlled by debt. And this is where I'm going to start into. It's all about debt.
Okay.
Completely.
So we're going to get to the debt, but just before that, I'm a little slow. And then for the sake of the conversation, could you really lay out the relationship of the inflation to the the people behind the curtain?
So after the Great Depression, FDR set out a gold standard to be tied with the USD currency, where 1 USD would equal X number of gold, flat rate. But instead, after which, FDR removed that, where it's off of complete perspective of other countries on how they see our currency's value to be. When created the federal, and both parties created the Federal Reserve, where pretty much allows them to print infinite amounts of money by putting themselves in debt. And you must ask the question, how's that possible? And it's a loop, and by printing more money, there's more money in the supply. There's more money in the money supply, which raises price of assets such as cars, houses, land, clothes, everything. And that more money in the money supply substantially puts people also in debt. That's what puts the relationship between all those together. And the more money supply there is, the more debt there is.
Okay, and both parties are complicit in this plan.
Because there has to be a budget passed, and this fiscal budget, 99% of the time, is a large fiscal budget that is, and many people can say, even as a fiscal conservative or as a liberal Democrat or democratic liberal, we cannot afford, even though we just print using more money. It's even look at this COVID relief. You may ask the questions where's our government getting all this money from? The true question is, we just came up with it, and then how are we gonna? Doesn't that mean more people have money and the price of things will go up, and then eventually putting more people in debt, and then making it harder to get out of debt, making the people who are the lenders more rich.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm understanding better now the connection there. Okay, so another kind of street epistemology style question is to just imagine a thought experiment. So let's say that we have two hypothetical worlds. The first world, let's say, is exactly the one that we live in, and for the sake of argument, not to sound like a contradictor or anything, but for the sake of argument, let's say everything that you just said and more is true, and that it really is this seedy underground San Francisco union of the two parties deciding everything that meet in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then we can compare that to a second hypothetical world in our thought experiment, which once again is just like the world that we live in now, and except in this hypothetical world, nothing that you have laid out today is true, but it only seems that way. And we still have inflation and fiscal policy and all that. So the question would be, how would we know which of those two worlds we're living in?
That's the question. That's really the big question, and it all ties back to due diligence and perspective. And those are Those are the two important things here. And Especially even like, do you invest in stocks, or are you related to cryptocurrency?
Yeah, I dabble in investment.
Even with, there's always two different sides of, is this or could this happen, or no, this will not happen. Being bullish or bearish about something is very similar in this context, where if both were alternatively true and are alternatively false, we would have similar likelihood of what may happen to follow, even though there are facts and data that we can nitpick or just study to support both claims. And we would have to follow the due diligence best, even though if all of this is false, there would have to be something either deeper or something less, something far more broad that could cause an explanation of how, these certain, this unlimited money we have could cause, or how the same people get reelected over and over, and how, deep money is here in America.
Mm-hmm.
And may ask the question, where did the Rockefellers' money go? Where did Carnegie's money go? And even where is all of Apple's money? And is it in the Seychelles? And a lot of that those that data and statistics could really be broken down, and deeper questions can be asked. But again, a lot of this is very broad, because I don't have the statistics right here to back up. And again, so you have to present it as this could either be very false or very true, which is many ways in many things in media.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't expect you to have, statistics with you today. It's funny that your background is so quantitative and looking for the 99% certainty or whatever for your whatever you're testing, So would you say that you have a comparable degree of certainty in this claim as you do in anything that you test Monday through Friday at USC?
No. Gosh.
Oh God, we have one of these things. So yeah, this is a certainty scale where at the very left, 0% would be there's no way in hell that this is true, and you're putting it right in the middle?
Right in the middle.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean, that you're right in the middle?
Completely what we discussed, either that a lot of this evidence is could either be very right or very wrong, which, if you ask me, is actually quite scary.
Oh,
or
yeah.
it's quite also very dichotomies here.
Is it scarier
It's
to be at 50 than if you had more evidence in one way or the other?
No. I think it would be less scary to have more evidence, but to have less... wait, let me think about this. If I had less evidence, you wouldn't really think about it, meaning you wouldn't draw more conclusions and make more, go after more, available evidence. So I think I would be happier, or I would be more suitable to the claim if it was here. But if there was more here, you would even go after more evidence and be like, I need to do more studies right now. We got to answer this. We got to figure this out.
So when you're moving that needle back and forth, are you moving it to the left as if to say, I have less evidence for this claim?
Yes.
So what if you had more evidence contrary to the claim, and then that's why you moved it to the left? Would that be more or less scary?
More scary. Because it would either answer us another question, or like what you said in the beginning here, right when I sat down. Is it, are these people hiding something from us? Are we just the masses that listen to a certain, group of people? Or is it that the science is there and the science is here for us, and that no one's really trying to hide anything?
Yeah.
And I would frankly I would agree to the latter. I mean, to the earlier, where it's, over here for that. Yeah.
So, I've kind of asked a couple scenarios of what kind of evidence and which way it moves the needle. Are there any scenarios, whether they be more evidence to the contrary or the affirmative, or less evidence to the contrary or affirmative, are there any scenarios that are less scary for you?
I really wouldn't say any of this is scary. And evidence, you'd have to dissociate from evidence as being scary or not, but more convincing Like, I understand like your perspective and what you're asking, and I think more convincing. I think more evidence would be, frankly, more convincing. Yes, and less evidence could point to the direction that it is less convincing. Yeah. And that tie back to the question: what is that evidence? Who is that evidence from? How reliable is such evidence? And yeah, that's. Again, it's a process, definitely, and I could understand why people get confused with all this stuff, especially COVID. Where 70-year-old grandma's like, I don't even know who to trust with like the media and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, man. Thanks for coming out here and telling me about this stuff.
Thank you. Yeah. Are you guys on YouTube?
Yeah. There's a cordial curiosity. I think it says it on that poster right there.
Okay, well, I'll follow you guys on YouTube. You have a great day. Yeah, I'll
Thanks.
stop by here again and check this out. This is sweet.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective and all about just talking to people on what they think about metaphysical or whatever. This is
Totally,
a great
man.
idea.
You hear some really cool stuff, just like pulling people off the street,
Yeah, because they're just minding their day. They could be thinking about anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Michael was your name?
Michael, yeah.
Michael, okay, and I'm Jacob.
Jacob, yeah, I remember you.
All right, thanks, Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, you have a great day.
Yeah, stay cool up there.